večer, dobar dan. Čekam neki znak od ovih urednika polipa, niko ništa, pa ću ja početi.
Znak, samo ne vidiš.
Okej. Ovi se prave Englezi, došli iz Srbije i Bosne i viču English, please. Ajde. You don't understand. Okay, we will get there. Možda mali, kratki uvod na ovim našim jezicima. Dobar dan, dobrodošli na ovu malu panelicu sa biranim društvom koje se interesira još uvijek za književne festivale i ono što je od njih ostalo. Ja imam veliku čast danas razgovarati sa mojim gostima koji dolaze iz regije, iz Albanije i Austrije, koji će nam nešto reći o svojim iskustvima vođenja festivala. To su uglavnom i pisci i urednici književnih festivala, osnivači. Imam i ja malo iskustvo. Bila sam programska koordinatorica Zagreb Book festivala, koji, evo sad već negdje 8. godinu, 9. traje, zadnje 2 više nisam s njima. Bila sam tamo kad se stvorio polip, prije 13 turbulentnih godina. U jednom trenutku u Leipzigu svjedočila sam tome kako su se Saša i Jeton upoznali. Palo je tu i nekih ružnih riječi, ali to ću vam oni večeras ispričati. Ja ću pamtiti samo sretne dane. Šalim se, sve je bilo sjajno, tako je nastao polip, ponešto znate o tome. English, please. For my guest from Serbia and Bosnia, I will speak in English now. Thank you for coming today. We will have a panel discussion about book festivals. Those who are, we are today at one, and something about those who we know very well and those who are not active anymore. We will talk a little bit about problems regarding to a book festival today, because I think that audience is a little bit changed in last 20-30 years. We will talk about themes of book festival. We will talk about fragmentation of reading audience and many more problems or bright sides that we have regarding that topic. Today with us we have guests from Albania, Austria, Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, from my left side here is Arian Leka. You heard him last night. He's a great poet and a writer. He received numerous prizes for his literary work, and he was also editor and the founder of book festival Poeteka in Tirana, and you will tell us a little bit about your festival when it will be your turn. Okay, and we have here Alexandra Millner. She comes from Vienna. She is a professor of modern German literature in Vienna University, and she was also a founder of book festival in Vienna. You will tell us several sentences about that, because we haven't read about that part of your job a lot in your biography. Festival was named Vienna March, right? Okay, then we have Vladimir Arsenijević. He comes from Belgrade. He's the founder of Crocodile Book Festival, which lasts now for many years, and a lot of international and regional guests were there, and this festival really achieved together a lot of audience, which is today not so common anymore for the book festivals, and maybe you will share your experience a little bit with us. And then we have Faruk Šehić. He's a writer, and he was a guest of numerous festivals, so maybe you can tell us a little bit from other part of the festival, guests and audience, what are your experience and what are your thoughts, where are we going, you know, it's very popular, what we can hope for, and so on. So maybe to start a little bit, just a few sentences, if each of you can tell us and to our audience a little bit about your festivals, just to have a quick insight. Yes, is there some specificities about your festival? How long is last, and how do you feel any changes through the years? How is today, and how was when you found it? And yes, thank you, Arian.
Eerst die hapur. Faleminderit për hyrjen. Shumë mirë vjen që ka njerëz përballë, gjë që tregon dëshirë që festivalet të vazhdojnë, por unë vërtet kam qenë ndoshta ndër pak të kënaqurit që Polipi po e mbyll këtë cikël, duke menduar që një formë tjetër do të vi në jetë. Kur Aurela ma ka bërë propozimin, a do të marrësh pjesë në këtë panel, kam thënë, por çfarë po mdoni mua, sepse unë mund t'ju tregoj mënyrën më të mirë si mund të mbyllet një festival, jo se si mund të vazhdoj një festival, sepse kam përvojë të madhe në ndryshimin e formave të festivalit. Festivali Poeteka ka filluar në vitin 2005, brenda kësaj periudhe, po nuk jam e mirë me numrat, por nga 2005 deri tani janë bërë më shumë se një dekadë, dhe na është dashur që her pas here duke parë lodhjen tonë, lodhjen e strukturës, struktura është bërë e rëndë, mërzinë e audiencës, që çdo vit e njëjta formë, shkrimtarët e mirë janë po aq, jo gjithmonë mund t'i ofrosh më të mirën, më të mirët janë në lëvizje. Kemi thënë shumë mirë, atëherë këtë kubin po e bëjmë piramidë. Këtë piramidën po japim një formë 12 këndshë, pra që të mos duket një lloj. Përvoja ka qenë, le të themi, e mirë, sepse disa herë kemi bërë festivale tematike, shpesh të fokusuar mbi një problematik urbane që ka qenë edhe politike, pra shqetësim që prej letërsisë ka shkuar në shoqëri, por që ka atakuar politikën. Herë ka qenë e stilizimit më të lartë, herë ka qenë për të sjellë në qendër të vëmendjes autor të mbajtur me dhunë jashtë historisë së letërsisë shqiptare. Herë ka qenë një nevojë për të thënë mjaft në pikën më të lartë kur është ndodhur festivali. Pra, jo për të parë rënien e festivalit, por për ta lënë atë në pikën e vet më të lartë, dhe kjo ka qenë në vitin 2016. Në vitin 2016 ne bëm edicionin kushtuar dadaizmit në Durrës, ku ka qenë një lëvizje e madhe urbane për ta çuar jo vetëm poezinë, por dhe debatin dhe dialogun mbi atë që ne shpesh e harrojmë. A është letërsia më art, pra a ka më art në letërsi? Apo në shtysën e publikut ne duam të braktisim atë që letërsia trashëgon si bele letere, dhe thjesht ta çojmë atë në komunikim, mjaft që lexuesi të jetë i kënaqur. Mendoj që ai ishte një festival që lambres, nuk mund të kishte sukses apo jo, sepse ne shohim që jemi një krizë të madhe të ndjekshme. Ata që vinë janë pothuajse të njëjtit dhe jemi në krizën që flasim me vetveten pa ndikuar dot as te njëri tjetri dhe jo më në publik. Kështu që menduam të japim një formë tjetër dhe quam festivalin në për qoshkat e qytetit, pra aty ku nuk mendohet që festivali mund të shkojë. Një nga këto ishte për ta futur në librarit, në bibliotekat publike. Shpenzohen shumë para për bibliotekat publike, por askush nuk shkon. Dhe janë kështu si këto kuajt e Trojës prej druri, ku askush nuk hyn, po gjithë e dim që aty janë librat dhe ca bibliotekarë që të presin dhe nuk të shërbejnë. Nuk ishte mënyrë e suksesshme, pra ishte pothuajse një dështim. Provuam një formë tjetër për ta çuar në kafe librarit. Sot për fat keq nuk di në Prishtinë, por në Tiranë Shumë kafene janë të mbështjella me libër si një ambalazh, pra si kjo shishe që ka një etiket, i vendosin librat pa funksion, askush nuk i prek, sa për të thënë që po ne kemi një rrethim prej librash. U përbojqëm të bëjmë të ndryshmen, të qëmë librarit aktive, me idenë që aty janë shkrimtarët, aty janë librat, dhe të nxitet leximi. S'kemi qenë kur të interesuar për shitjen. Ajo është detyrë e botuesve. Kishte aq sukses sa kishte dhe menduam të bëjmë formën e tretë, në cilën është sot dhe po e mbyll, për ta bashkuar leximin letrar me rezidencën letrare, ku janë shkrimtarë dhe përkthyes, duke arsyetuar diçka. Në vend të një festivali të shkurtër dhe të përqendruar 3 deri në 5 ditë, i cili harrohet në një vit, ne kemi menduar të kemi 12 ose 10 lexime të përmuajshme, gjë që është një ritmik tjetër në kokën e publikut, që çdo muaj të kujton, e lidh një shkrimtar të ardhur në rezidencën e Tiranës me një shkrimtar vendas, lexojnë së bashku, ndonjëherë përkthejnë së bashku kur njohin gjuhët, dhe ky ka qenë, si thua, procesi metamorfozës se si një krimb mund të kthehet në flutur.
Okay. Thank you for now, Arian. So, Alexandra, a similar question to you, but maybe with an additional explanation. When the literary festival starts to being very popular in Europe, it was late 80s, early 90s, and maybe peak was 2000. So at the beginning, most of the festival were just literary festivals, and then audience wanted something more. So then started with the concerts, and then started with debates, and then beer, and then, you know, coffee, and then clones, and then exhibitions and everything. So we are a little bit, I think that we are a little bit losing books from the focus, which is time have changed really, and I think the technology have changed, and our interest for the multiple things have changed, but I think that literary festivals really are different today than from the moment as they start in that popular way. So what is your experience in changing of the festival, and what is that audience wants today from the literary festival?
Well, I have to admit that I'm quasi a predecessor of the speaker before me, because I didn't found the literature festival called Literature March, which was not only the biggest literature festival in Vienna, but also in Austria. But I just had to experience the ending phase of this festival, which was stopped in 2005. So this was a very well-known festival, especially in Vienna, of course. And it started in 1970, or in the early 1970s already, and it had a lot to do with the feminist movement, because the city of Vienna, it was a sub-association or sub-institute of the city of Vienna, and they were asked, this sub-organization was asked to organize a huge festival, an international festival, and they really got a lot of money for that. That was really great. And I think the first aim was to make a low threshold event on literature, to ensure that also mothers with young children could come, because there was always a kindergarten, and there were all generations were here, and they spent 3.5 days together. It was like a community who met every March not at the same place, but always in like theaters or museums. So they were always very popular and central places to meet, and they spent 3.5 days together. Yes, so that was, and of course you had to provide for food and drink, because the whole festival consisted of 8 to 10 readings per day. So 1 hour, one reading, and in the evening there were also literary concerts or performances, films, and other events like transdisciplinary events, and of course a bar where you could meet afterwards in between and so on. And I joined the team of curators at the end of the 1990s, and I did it 4 or 5 times, and there was always a general topic like money or women. What are we going to do now? A bit ironic all the time, or avant-garde literature with the Viennese group, or other topics, religion. So very general topics, so that we could invite many different authors with many different perspectives on the theme. And since the budget was really high, we could really invite people from the USA. Like I had conversation with T.C. Boyle several times a year. We never managed to get him to Vienna because he was so busy. But like people from everywhere, and this was so great because, and we had of course Austrian writers as well, because everybody, as they really met, and many friendships and collaborations stem from that time, and the most important thing for me was to see, the women with the small children and knitting, and old people and young people and students and pupils and professionalists. Everybody mingled there, and this was great. But then they, within this organization, which covered several literary formats, there was envy. So, and it was more a woman thing. This festival was more a woman thing. Let's call it that way. And my impression was that there was envy on the budget we had, and so they reorganized everything. They stopped the festival, and that's a great pity, because since then there's a different festival, but it's only concentrated on Austrian literature, and it has 1 reading per week, only July and August, but it doesn't, it's not a continuation, it's something totally different, and the format has stopped. And I'm really sad about that, because it opened up so many ways to meet people and to get to know other literatures, other accesses to literature, and the function of literature for society also is now, seen in a completely different ways.
Okay, thank you for now, Alexandra. Vladimir, Crocodile is a quite popular festival for many years now. Can you maybe tell us, for the first question, what is the recipe to make a festival popular and gather a large number of audience? And maybe the second question, what is your experience with changing of audience? Because I believe even when Crocodile started, there was something that we didn't call that maybe, but we can feel this generation glue through the literature. Today, for younger people in age or 18 or 20 years, I don't believe there is something like generation writers. They're so globalized, and if you can, for example, it's not their generation, but for example, if you can see 50 videos of Hanif Qureshi today talking about everything in internet, then you maybe won't go there and listen someone talking in the festival. So those circumstances of meeting authors and hearing what do they have to say, it's really changed even from the moment when Crocodile was started. So maybe for the beginning that.
Thanks. I'll actually start replying from the end and then go to the beginning. Everybody grew very sick and tired of screens and everything during COVID era, and the whole, when people say, okay, we're going to do a hybrid thing, people just roll their eyes. They're really starting to lack eye-to-eye sort of thing. And I think, once again, they appreciate live events, they appreciate actually meeting people, seeing these people in flesh and blood. So I think that changed due to the fact that we had this experience with COVID, and I'm kind of grateful for that, because there is something which, the whole Zoom fatigue and the fact that we're glued to the screens and stuff. So again, live events have this kind of romantic appeal that they might have been losing in the previous times. But so to return, and in a way the reply is almost the same, and obviously it has to do with our regional dynamics. Crocodile actually started, without publicly saying so, as in a way, continuation of the FAK festival in Croatia. And FAK was very crucial for establishing this new Croatian scene, which developed in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And obviously this was the time when finally the whole decade of wars and destruction stopped and we could communicate again. So we have had 10 years of the lack of contact, and FAK, together with Rende Publishing House in Serbia, which I started, then maybe guys from Buy Book in Sarajevo. So we all started off with these intense regional programs because there was a lot to discover in that time. And FAK was cool. I mean, before, all literary presentations were very stuffy, very academic, very boring.
But I have just one thing to say about FAK. They were great, but time have changed in 20 years. FAK, for example, had only one female author. Only one female author. So for today, I don't think that FAK was,
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And that was a criticism that was going on in the time. It didn't just come later. But nevertheless, disregarding that, all other things were kind of okay. I mean, in a sense that they decided to perform in unofficial spaces. So they would rather use a bar than like institution or something like that. Then there was no mediation. There would never be, before there would always be like a literary critic who would actually explain to you what the writer meant. But here it was direct, writers reading to the readers. And then, last but not the least, and not even the last, they charged tickets, which I thought was really, really important, and they did it in a very clever way, so that the ticket was always equivalent of the price of one beer in a place where you... So, in a way, it was saying, like, give us a beer. And that was easy for the audiences to understand. It was participation. Nobody is taking your money away, just give the beer to the writer. And there was something very Dionysic in a way, sort of carnival-like. There was a lot of laughter, there was a lot of hanging around, getting drunk, smoking drugs, whatnot. And then
people will think a lot of things about literature now, if you're saying that.
Yeah, well, I try to say, we brought it to what was still Yugoslavia then, and obviously FAK, I mean, PAN was intended. It does not mean FAK in English. It's like Festival of A, alternative, and then A, literature. But we were then living in Yugoslavia, which had an abbreviation YU, so we called it Fuck You in Yugoslavia. And I remember then, and this actually brought Crocodile to life some years later, Čičo Senjanović came, and we were performing in Center for Cultural Decontamination. And for years on end, we couldn't hear, there's this sweetness to the split dialect, which is very particular. And very melodic and interesting to people from Belgrade. And so Čičo Senjanović was reading, he was just this absolutely funny writer, writing for Feral Tribune in the time, and unfortunately died. And there was this dead silence in the audience. And then I understood that people were not really listening, I mean they were, to what he was saying, but they were more listening to how he was actually pronouncing his words. And that somehow appeared to be very important for this segment of Belgrade audiences. So when we started with Crocodile, we started with the idea that we are lacking an actual platform that would allow people to just come together and read together. So this regional substance became extremely important for us, and not only for us, but for the audiences, because we flopped really in the first year. We actually happened in this amphitheater in front of the Museum of Yugoslavia, in the open-air theater, and the first year we had a horrific rainstorm. books. And I remember we were standing we had to move into the Museum of Yugoslavia, and we just flopped. I mean, we spent all this money, we invited all these writers, we didn't even start, and now we just can't go on. And you couldn't even see because of all the rain. And then we just saw people coming with hoods on their heads. So, I mean, nobody knew about the festival, it didn't even happen, but obviously there was an actual need of the people. And I think this is how you explained, at the end of the day, not only the success of literary festivals, but of just about anything. I mean, there's an actual need, and then you just happen to be there in the right time with the right concept. So basically, we evolved through the years from our 100% regional concept onto kind of like a mixture between regional and international. And in the meantime, I don't want this to sound overly arrogant, but I think together with several other, well, publishing houses, festivals, and different places, we managed to form this space in Serbian publishing and literary and cultural world at the end of the day, where regional literary products are welcome and interesting. And we can really say now that many Croatian writers, many Bosnian writers, many writers from all over the place are actually big literary stars, and maybe they sell a lot of books. So even now, when we bring like Hanif Kureishi or Margaret Atwood or Irvin Welsh or whoever, it's nevertheless like Viktor Ivančić or Milko Jergović or whoever, who are actual big stars in our festival. So.
Okay, thank you for now. So Faruk, one question for you, very simple, from colleague to colleague. I can answer also later if you want. What was the best literary festival that you visit as author, and what was the worst and why?
Oh, this is very
unpleasant questions.
Yes.
Yeah, I love unpleasant questions.
I don't know.
I will tell you later, but not in front of all.
It came in my mind one festival in Romania, in
Okay.
city of Iași. Maybe it was not the best, but Svetla Basara was Serbia and I was from Bosnia. And it was not the best, but maybe most, most interesting for me, because I was able to see all the nuances,
All the layers?
all the layers of the so-called fame, or literary fame. And I met one female writer from Spain, Maria, I think Duenas, and she sold like millions of copies of her book. We eat together, like some ordinary meal. And I saw there was one like United States, American writer. I never heard from him, but he got the Pulitzer Prize for 2 times, for example. And then was like Michal Shishkin, and when he was on the stage, it was like he was like a rock and roll superstar, like David Bowie. And you know, it was like music, and he came on the stage like some kind of Muhammad Ali of the literature. And I was sitting in some balcony, and it was fascinating. I mean, and it's good. It's good when you go to that kind of festival, and they have like a huge poetry audience, and we have readings in one tent, and it was like 300 people there. And when you finished your readings, everybody, you know, it was like huge noise, you know, like you are in some like festival, rock and roll festival. I mean, I attend on a lot of festivals, and it's good for me as a writer to meet that kind of different as a class of writers. And I mean, it's so big and huge world, like you are in a spaceship, and you can always discover a new planet. For you it's new, but for them you are unknown. You came from the other world. And the worst I can't...
You said polip, I think that polip's not...
the worst...
bizarre, maybe, yeah, then we can hear that.
So I don't want to offend anybody.
No, but I can tell you my experience with the, as I said, worst festival, but sometimes when you come somewhere, then you realize that festival is a project festival. It's not a real festival. It's not gathering people in a way that they have certain idea, or they're trying for years to create a certain audience, or when they know who are they talking to, you know, they just want to check the boxes in the project, get some money for the funds for the festival, and everything is so artificial. So those are maybe the festivals that for writers are worse, because you feel as you came there, but no one really cares, because it might be you, it might be someone else. There is no certain idea or interest around your work or book or idea that you represent.
It's easy to remember that kind of festival. I was in China on one very famous, huge festival, but it was about everything, but only not about literature. It's like public diplomacy, you know, they want to show muscles of the state. And we have readings on some lake. It was on 3,000 meters above the sea level, and there was a lot of poets, like famous poets, and I don't know, I can't remember if I have reading. It was like in some kind of, like we are in Yugoslavia, but in 50s, you know, like. But we have everything. I see the yellow river. It's not yellow, it's green. I mean, in the beginning, or it's like they want to show you China and Forbidden City and Beijing, and it was like you get a free voucher for the holiday. It's not a, I mean, it's a, they want to fascinate you with China, and also I was in Turkey on some similar festivals when they asked me that I give some kind of speech, and I was not prepared, and I said, how can I give speech? I mean, you know, you didn't ask me to give speech, or somebody invites you and you didn't check the political backgrounds. That was my worst fear. Of course, I will not attend on right-wing festivals and that kind of shit. So once I was in situations that when I came there, I see it's a situation that I don't want to be. And the journalist came, and the first question was what I think about Bosnian President Alexandra, and that is the question because I don't want to offend them. So I was thinking, what can I say? I mean, I don't think anything good about him. But he looked at me like I'm a spokesperson of the late, Alexandra, and I said, okay, he was in a bad situation.
Okay.
So that was the, I mean, not so unpleasant, but the worst, I don't know, I can't remember. Maybe the worst festivals are worst, like when you drink too much every night.
Okay, fair enough. But it's just subjective. Alexandra, you wanted to say something.
I want to refer to your question, to a proper question, because I didn't answer your question, and I add to your statement, and there are 2 points I want to make in favor of literature festivals in a traditional way, not in a hybrid event or a Zoom meeting. There are 2 things. The one thing is that I'm really eager to make literary festivals or any event I'm organizing a low threshold thing so that everybody can participate, and I always try not to make free entrance, but I understand your point. The thing is that we had this utopia when we started with internet and computer, that everybody, wherever, be it in Africa or in Asia or whatever, on the North Pole, could be able by internet to participate in anything all over the world. This is not the case. We have had to realize that, and the other thing is that readings are a very central thing. So I'm also a literary critic, and sometimes when I'm not sure if I do understand the book I have to write a review on correctly, I go to the reading, and then it becomes so clear. The core message of the text becomes so clear, and also the attitude of the author toward the writing, everything becomes clear. And even yesterday I was so pleased again to have in such a short time so many readings, because everybody had a different voice, a different tone, a different rhythm, different choice of texts, and it's so important to get this physical impression. I think that this is something that can't be substituted by anything else.
Thank you. That's interesting that you are saying. I think the readings are the special part of the festival. Some festivals are all into the readings, especially maybe for German audience. They love readings very much, but someone's laughing here. Yeah, I know. It can be hard. My second Austria. But for example, I was in a book fair in Göteborg, and they have a totally different philosophy. They don't have readings, and they have discussions or interviews with authors not longer than 45 minutes. And they're not talking about the books, because they have, okay, you have a book and you have reading, which is act of intimacy with the book, and they're talking with author, mostly journalists, about their frame of ideas, about questions that they are involving in the literature, and they're very, very visited events, and they realized that people are sometimes tired after 1.5 hour, of a reading or talking about the book from some kind of academic position, and they just wanted to give other part of author and their opinion to readers, and the book will do the rest. You are reading mostly when you are alone, mostly when you are at home, because you need concentration. So readings are interesting question regarding the festivals, and yeah, to have and how, and I think that not all texts are suitable for reading, because something can engage you when you hear that for a first time, but some texts, when they have layers, when they have a little bit of complex linguistic way that they were written, I don't think that they are working very well when you hear them only for the first time. So,
but most of the time they're mixed programs or formats. It's always a mixed form.
Yeah. Yeah, but as I said, I think it's a special topic. So I have one question for all of you, because that is something that I had experienced as a program coordinator of festival and a writer and a mother of teenager who is willing to read. First thing is that audience, from my point of view, is definitely changed. The audience is mostly older audience on book festivals now today. Some certain festivals they have a younger audience, but mostly it's related with universities or with the high schools or something like that. It's really hard to gather organic younger audience to festivals today. Kids who are reading or adolescents, they are reading a lot of in English. They are using a lot of internet for researching their interests, and they're just very fragmented audience. They're not gathered with one idea, for example, in Serbia, or with one idea in Croatia or in Austria. They're globalized in a way. It's so funny when my daughter, she's 17, she said to me, I love so much Asian literature. I think it's much better than Europe, you know, it's like something that it's, okay, part of the teenage rebel, and when your mother is writer, of course you love Asian literature, and it's much better than Balkan. I can tell that by not reading. But what is happening with young audience today, especially with one question, their problems, as we can hear them, are slightly different than problems that we had in literature and in life. And not to sound now like Jehovah's Witness as I sound sometimes, I think that one really political question that matters today for the young people are climate changes. And that is the thing that literature is lacking, and it's very slow going by what is really happening today in the world. So maybe to sum those questions. First, who is the audience of literary festival today? And second, how to gather younger audience, and who are we talking to? What are those literary stars or writers they know how to write and talk to younger audience?
Çështja fillon mbrëm me një grup miq që ishim në orë të vonë, kishim një ndodhi. Tëreza ngjitur me ne, ishim 3 vajza, cilat flisnin shumë rrjedhshëm në anglisht, dhe mbas pak kohësh njëra prej tyre e theu bisedën dhe lëshoi një fjali në shqip. Dhe ne kuptuam që nuk janë të huaja, po janë banorët Prishtinës që preferojnë të flasin anglisht dhe të braktisin edhe në intimitet gjuhën e tyre të lindjes. Ky ishte një fakt që mua më bëri të mendoj për audiencat e reja, sepse ishin, le të themi, 18-20 vjeç. Jemi në një moment, ose unë jam në një moment jo të lehtë për ta përkufizuar se cila është audienca, sepse do ta detyronim festivalin si strukturë, siç bëhet një letër shuk, për ta përshtatur sipas shijes së audiencës, pra për të bërë një festival për secilin prej tyre. Kemi pasur vjet një rast jo të këndshëm në Tiranë, ose në vështrimin e Brezit të Ri shumë i këndshëm, ku kishim të ftuar një shkrimtar të njohur dhe bëjmë thirrje për ftesë, jo thirrje, e janë ta takoni, ishte viti pas pandemisë. Ta njihni nga afër, t'i bëni pyetje, të rini me të bisedoni, dhe jo nga një njeri, por nga disa, pikërisht kjo mosha, le të themi 20-30, erdhi pyetja, nuk keni ndonjë link, ta shohim nga shtëpia. Është momenti jo i lehtë për të thënë cila është audienca. Kemi bërë një përpjekje, ndonjëherë ka qenë ironike, ndonjëherë ka qenë vetë ironike, ndonjëherë kemi dëgjuar këshillat jo të urta të tjerëve që kanë thënë, shiko, hiqeni fjalën festival letrar, se fjala letrar i trem njerëzit. Quajini vetëm festival, se njerëzit janë të interesuar për festën brenda festivalit. Pra, le të marrim një gotë, le të gëzojmë, le të qasemi kështu si punk culture, le të qasemi autorit, o qa bën ti dhe unë bëj këtë dhe ti bën këtë. Nuk mendoj që kjo është rruga e dur. Një festival nuk është krijuar që të përshtatet të gjitha audiencave. Audiencat janë të ftuar, madje janë të ftuar për ta refuzuar ftesën. Pra, nëse nuk u pëlqen, nuk kam se të vinë. Më duket pak e sforcuar kjo, le t'i marrim mamat me gjithë fëmijët, le t'i marrim papalarët me gjithë fëmijët, sepse ky është një kopësht eksperimental ku ne do t'i mësojmë të lexojmë. Fakt është pjesë e një sistemi më të gjerë edukimi, i cili mund të fillojë me shkollat. Mund të ketë një qasje më të butë, jo duke paraqitur shkrimtarët dhe përkthyesit si qenie të çuditshme, jashtë realitetit, që bëjnë punë që si bën kush, që shoqëria është i detyruar t'i paguajë, se nëse nuk i paguan, ata s'ndihen mirë dhe nuk na shkruajnë. Mendoj që kjo është një qasje e sforcuar, por është procesi që ne po i provojmë të gjitha format. Në Shqipërinë e kemi përdorur për shembull si të ruajmë dorëshkrimin. Ne nuk kemi më dorëshkrime. Ne kemi autorë që shkruajnë drejt në kompjuter, pra po zhduket një traditë e madhe. Bashkë me dorëshkrimin autorial po zhduken dhe punët korrektuese mbi tekstet. Pra nuk kemi gjurmë të redaktorëve, nuk kemi gjurmë të korrektorëve për të parë se ç'është ky proces. Ne shohim vetëm letrën e bardhë, pra gjurmën e autorit. Jemi munduar në një festival të fusim kulturën e dorëshkrimit, pra poezia e shkruar me dorë si një akt, dokument që tregon të shkrimtarin. Jemi përpjekur që primo besoj që e mban mend, sepse ka ndihmuar, ka dhënë një kontribut jo të vogël në përurimin e poezisë më pak të njohur në Shqipëri, që ka qenë poezia holandeze një rast dhe poezia slovene një rast, me idenë që të grishim, të ftojmë njerëz për të njohur të panjohurën, ajo që ishte më pak e njohur. Nuk mund të them që ka qenë jetë gjatë, njerëzit sot mërziten shumë shpejt, dhe ky është efekti teknologjik. Duan gjithmonë gjëra të reja, gjëra të papërdorura, dhe kjo na ka vënë një vështirësi jo të vogël për të parë çfarë duan njerëzit, audiencat, dhe nëse vërtet duhet të pyesim audiencat çfarë duan, apo duhet të bëjmë atë që dim të bëjmë më mirë. Për mua, format më të mira të festivaleve janë ato, duke lidhur dhe me audiencat, kur audiencë nuk është shteti. Kur nuk vjen titullarët e shtetit, ne kemi pasur në festivalin tonë disa raste, pastaj kemi refuzuar të bashkëpunojmë me shtetin, pra të marrim fonde publike, nuk kemi marrë prej më shumë se 10 vjetësh, sepse shteti ka kërkuar të mbaj fjalimin e parë, të ministrit, pastaj të kryetarit të bashkisë, dhe njerëzit kanë bërë ironi dhe kanë thënë, po, poezia më e bukur ishte fjalimi i ministrit. Kështu që kemi dashur të rrim larg kësaj zone dhe kemi 10 vjet, le të themi, që punojmë në kushte të vështira, mos themi ekstremisht të vështira, sepse nuk kemi parapëlqyer të punojmë me shtetin, pikërisht për faktin që shteti thot, në rastin tim, Arian, do t'i një mbështetje për revistën Poeteka? Ti thua, po, se revistat nuk mund të jetojnë shumë mirë, thotë, unë do t'i jap një mbështetje, por ti do t'a përurosh në ministri. Atëherë kemi thënë, jo, faleminderit, dhe nuk kemi vajtur, sepse dhe nëse ne do të vemi, audienca jo nuk të shkonte. Kështu që kemi menduar ta shprangosim festivalin dhe revistën nga këto, dhe them që mund ta kishim më lehtë për të bashkëpunuar me shtetin, por dhe shteti duhet të vetë ndjehet mirë, ti vetë ofrohet këtyre që bëjnë festivale ose mbajnë revista, sesa të na kujtoj një tipologji të sjelljes së një shteti të kaluar që shteti zgjedh grupin e vet të artistëve dhe përfaqësohet me grupin e vet të artistëve. Në fakt kjo është një tipologji e komunizmit që, të them vërtetën, në Shqipëri nuk është krejt e fashitur, e zhdukur, që në momentin me Vladimirin po bisedonim, që në momentin kur një shtet të propozon të ardhmen pa të dhënë present time, të përditshme, atëherë t'ju kupton që tipologjia e komunizmit pa ofrohet. Ato që të ofrojnë të ardhmen pa një përditshmëri drejt së ardhmes, thjesht përsërisin një formë të një shteti regjim të kaluar. Shteti që fillon të personalizojë autorët dhe zgjedh klubin e vet të shkrimtarëve, të piktorëve, të futbollistëve, të këngëtarëve. Ky është një proces i shtetëzimit të artit. Gjë që unë e kam refuzuar dhe besoj që me këtë kokë që kam do ta refuzoj.
Thank you, Arian. I must mention at this moment polip as a festival who is just the opposite of those generic literary festivals, became a project in one moment and then just trying to get some funds and get some writers to come. Polip, as you know, was really pure idealistic festival that achieved to connect a lot of people that would never come together in communication. A lot of translated book through last years came and we can read them thanks to Polip Festival, and I think it had impact for a lot of people, not maybe impact that you can see in a first glance, but not only the audiences here. I know many people from Croatia, Serbia, Kosovo, that they are thinking today differently because of this festival, which really started from one idea, and then now after 13 years, unfortunately, in some way it's closing, but I think the impact that Polip had on the society from both sides and some other sides is very, very large. But you know, I think that every festival has this way of, you know, it's when it was started, and then when it's festival gathered around idea, and then we have some peak, and then even the structure gets tired. Maybe the ideas need some new ways or new younger people. Yes, but. When I asked Faruk the best and the worst festival, maybe to compare, that was the thing that I was thinking about. The ideas that they are behind some festivals or projects, and then from the other side, something that we just want to have and to exist because it's a part of administrations or something like that. But as you well explained the situation today, I would like to ask Alexandra also, what do you think, which model or which type of festival is something that we are going to? What is something that might engage audience today? Because we can have festivals without readers. And what is something that we are reading today? What is something that younger generation reads? And what are those ideas that they are gathering? Because of the technology and the free time is different today than 20 years ago. In such a small period of time, a way of life really changed. So I think that we all have this problem with luxury of time that is pure concentration, you know, because we are scrolling the mobiles, we are listening something, and for the reading we really need, we cannot read book and watch the smartphone. It's the only thing what we can do together at the same time. But habits of reading are changed in a way, and due to that, what really we can hope for? What are, in your opinion, something that will be new releases of the literary festivals?
Well, I've realized only lately that really young authors and young people from all other disciplines, they work together in a transdisciplinary way, and they don't want to get funds from anywhere, but they are self-organized, and they want to choose what they work on, how they do it, and they find pop-up places and spaces like old shops that are no longer used, and they're really run-down places. But then they organize very, very beautiful events with literary texts and performances and music and installations, and then they have their friends of the same age who come, and they also invite, you know, all other people, elder people from the literary scene, and so there is a kind of networking, but it's initiated by them, and I think this is really, really important to let them do, and then we, the other generation, should be really curious about it and go there and watch and tell other people to go there. And also that the other way around is also a very interesting thing, and it works out well. so far that established authors, they are like mentors for younger authors, for younger people who they realize they are writing in a very serious way, and they try to help them. And then there is a generation change now going on in Austria on every level in culture, and I think that's also a good thing, and they try to bridge the gap somehow.
But one question, more short one. Can we lead to that, that people are gathering for themselves like that, in some pop-up events? Can we leave all the readings and institutional festivals just rely to that idea that some kids will connect together on internet and then organize some events?
No, of course not. I'm in a satisfying position as a university teacher, and I also used to be a teacher at school, and it's my mission to make people read. Yeah. So, but in Austria they stopped the duty, the German. There is no longer literature to be taught in German lessons, and this is really a pity. And since they've changed that, I can tell from the students, they don't know anything about German or about literature anymore, because they read at school now. They read, books like books after films, because the teachers, they want to be sure that they read, but that's not the same thing. I know that many young people read, and they have their also at social media they have their reading groups, but they read like kind of literature I have no access to, like you said, Asian
literature. Great Asian. No, I don't think that there is no great Asian literature, but it's not that great Asian literature. Not that type of great Asian literature. Okay, thank you. Vladimir, to your opinion, who are the readers today in Serbia? For example, middle generation, younger generation, and how do you see Crocodile in several years? Do you have some ideas to change it more, or to lower criterion, maybe due to gather some larger audience, or maybe to be just like a young Pope, to be radical? This is a literary festival and we are only going to read quality literature. So what is your opinion to that?
I think one has to keep an open mind, and there's no point in being conservative about anything, least of all literature. Who's to say where literature starts and where it stops? So we started thinking more in terms of literary creators than writers, and then also is only things that is printed and cut in pages and then, bind in jackets, is that proof of something being literature? And then something else not being literature? Spoken word, improv,
okay, I think
slam,
there are certain criterion. Well, because we can go with just anything goes, everything is relative. So
not everything goes, but a lot of things go. And I think it really makes sense acknowledging that. From the cartoon, like if you can't beat them, join them. You don't even have to beat them, but join them. And so we introduce gaming, for instance, in our literary festival, because I think it's really important and it's appealing to the young people, and it does give this multi-perspective, completely different approach to possible literary content. So gaming is a very commercial activity. It doesn't have to have artistic quality. It might just sell and be a piece of crap. And a lot of stuff which is produced is a piece of crap. But there is some really intense narrative going on in the gaming field as well. And it's worth exploring as well. And this is appealing to the people. Then, I don't know what, hip-hop or whatever. I remember I was watching this Argentinian movie where this teacher comes as a substitute to this class of kids in this, suburb which is written with crime and whatnot. And he's trying to teach children literature. He says, well, tell me stories, and they're all just really bored, and they just hate that, they don't want that. And then this one kid said, well, I just hate his stuff, but I can, rap something for him. And then he goes rapping about his life, and the Jews go, well, this is it, this is what I'm talking about. So, I mean, this kid didn't even realize that he was doing literature, but he was. So, to my mind, I think the answer is quite clear. I mean, you have to understand how young people function. And I remember these conservative attitudes towards when internet started. And everybody was saying, oh, it's going to kill reading and it's going to kill books and everything. But so what? I mean, people are reading online so much. So it's really not about the point that they were reading, but about what they were actually reading. So if you can make sure to supply quality stuff in different ways to the people, it amounts to the same thing.
Yeah, but there are some quality stuffs on internet, but I don't think it's the most of the content that people are reading. So, but in several years, then we can expect Crocodile merge with PlayStation 6.
Well, okay, if you want to be cynical about it, yeah, like in Asian literature on PlayStation 6 in Crocodile.
Okay.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, thank you. Faruk, tell me now, maybe we can do something about that, if it's not too far-fetched, but what is the literary festival that you would like to visit and you didn't yet? Maybe that...
You almost did.
Yes.
And, okay.
Crocodile. I was invited. Yes, I was invited before 10 years or more, but I couldn't go because of private problems. But we can change that in the future.
Okay, besides Crocodile. Is there any besides Crocodile that you want to visit? And what?
Maybe in the United States. I never been. I had a small tour there, and it is totally different literary world. And when I was there, I experienced that I have much more energy than I expected. Because when you are in New York, you don't sleep at all. And the way how they prepare for the readings, for the events are much more, not professional, but more serious than in Europe. I mean, it's like new level. And I have like few readings. Among them, I was on famous Berkeley University, and it's totally different world. We have like private readings inside that one.
What is your opinion on readings? Do you love to read as a writer? Do you think the reading has an impact to audience, or do you maybe love more discussion or interview with host or someone? What do you think is the best format to engage the audience in your ideas, content, or book?
Yes, I forgot that Polip is like mostly reading festival, and it was obvious last night.
But you see today how smart talks we have here. Come on.
Yes, but no, I said it's a positive thing, because for me as author, it's easy to talk for hours like this.
Okay.
But when you are reading, I can talk only from my position. It requires a lot of energy, and I don't know, maybe it's the best combination, part of talking, few questions and like some parts of the, but it's strange because if you read poems, it will be always more effect, it make more effect to the audience, or something shorter. If you read part from the novel, it can be good if it's short and
It's like you yesterday.
no, like
You just got bored. You just stopped last night.
yes,
You
because
decided I can't do this anymore.
no, it was not the reason. It was the reason because I saw that my text is long, and I don't want to take space more than other authors. It was my modest. Yes, and yes, not place, but I don't know. And it because I was thinking the text will be on the screen. So I just misunderstand when I talk with Diana, and not because of that. It was just too long, and everybody was so short. So I cut myself. That was the reason, real reason. And it's, I don't know.
So you prefer combination,
Yes,
reading and
maybe.
talking?
Maybe, but it's for me, if you ask me, I will always say, can we please not read?
Okay, I think it always depends on what you read. You know, some texts really can engage the audience, and some texts they can kill.
So like you said, the text with a lot of layers and
Yes, and
not
yeah.
for
So now is the time for a question from audience. I can invite you to ask. Yes, Yeton, you come on. You can ask them like okay. And now chief of the festival, polip, Yeton.
No, one question for Faruk maybe, because I was...
We call him Modesty Blaze from tonight.
No, it was interesting to hear him saying that audiences are more interested when authors are reading poems. And I don't think this is the case for lots of other countries. Let's say for Germany, mostly they are interested in prose writers. And let's say last year we had some prose writer who was a poet, in fact, who was saying, "Oh, I feel so privileged because in my country," I don't remember from which country he was coming, he was saying that nobody is really interested in poetry, they prefer prose, while here I see that they are engaged mostly with the poetry. So why is it? It has to do with the Balkans, or what do you think is the reason?
Yeah, of course, when you go to a lot of festivals, you will see that poetry is, I mean, it's like, in a way, poetry as herself, it's like sect, some kind of sect, faction. And,
I'm following you.
No, I'm not in bed. I don't want to offend, but I'm quiet. And you can go on a poetry festival where there are only poets, and for me it's too much.
Too much sex. It's like too much sex.
It can be very strange, and of course, I was thinking only about impact on the audience. When you read a poem, it's short. It can be very powerful. Like this guy from Greece, this Khaled Ezra, and he had very, for me, it was like very interesting performance with words, intense, yes, and different. And you know, he was walking. He have a scenario what he will do. You know, it was different and it was good. And but of course, this reading, boring reading, when you go to these poetry festivals, when the people who have like 300 years old, like mostly men, and they read like, I mean, they are almost in the grave.
Their life depends on it.
Yes, but they never give up, and you can read. You will meet a lot of people who are fake. I mean, sometimes when I go on that kind of festival, I sink in some deep hole, and I was thinking, is this worthy to be writer? You know, what is the point? Because you met a lot of old male poets, ancient, like from the ancient Greek time. Yes, they are older than Egypt.
I asked him, and he said I was searching for the exit. I wanted to escape.
Yeah, that was good way to escape.
Okay. Thank you, Yeton. Yes, please.
So I don't know to which one of you to direct this question, so I'll just ask the question and feel free to answer whoever has an idea. It was great listening to you talk about literary festivals and organization, but I want to put up a question that has to do with literature itself. I want to ask you what you think what do you think of not only literature festivals, but literature as an activity, vice versa, artificial intelligence?
Crocodile PlayStation 6 can answer that.
No, I'm just guessing. I can't, I'm not sure that I can provide the question to this, but maybe this would partly reply. The whole technological advance and the way that it kept speeding up things continuously. So I remember some 20 years ago there was this impulse on behalf of, on the side of editors in the publishing houses and literary agents that they tried to kind of say to the writers, write less pages and publish more quickly and be in tune with the rhythm of the times. But then if you look at what was going on in terms of global literature success in the last 20 years, it was a dominance of major novels, of huge novels. Some things would be like 1,000+ pages. And evidently, literature, in a way, is a way to kind of, maybe escape from this speed of everything else and to tune up to a different rhythm. And this is what literary audience were searching for all along. So the editors were wrong, and literary agents were wrong, which oftentimes happens. So if you think in terms of artificial intelligence being able to produce something which looks like a literary text, I think it would always end up just looking like a literary text and not being a literary text, because literary text by definition is dirty as well. And we make mistakes through literary texts. And this is what provides the singularity and the identity of a literary text. So I think living things will just continue being living things, and everything else will be everything else.
Thank you. Alexandra, you wanted to add something?
I want to refer to your former statement and also to your question, because you said before that it's not necessary to produce texts. There are several forms and ways of doing literature, and I'm now referring to one of the avant-garde writers, an Austrian writer, H.C. Artmann, who was very productive from after the Second World War, and he died in 2000. And he said in a manifest referring to surrealistic and romantic contents that if you want to be a poet, you don't necessarily have to write any texts. It's all in your mind, and this is what you were saying, conferring to nowadays. And I think this is also the big difference to artificial intelligence, because where is poetic act? And the other thing is, if we now quote Robert Musil, also an Austrian writer, who said that the most important thing with literature, or in literature, is the opening up of spaces of possibility.
Yeah, thank you. I would maybe just add to that, from the point of author, first, I think the people are not so, they're maybe eager to see what artificial intelligence can do, but they are searching for something that came from spirit. And from the other side, the part of author, I wouldn't let anyone to take from me this enjoyment of creating text, because I'm not writing my books to sell them to readers. I'm writing my books because that moment of enjoying, of creating, and I wouldn't let someone to do that instead of me. So why writing? So that's why I think that it will always be in a way. And yes, Svetlana.
Yeah, because I have this short attention. If I don't get the mic, I'll forget what I was on the side.
Actually, I don't even need the mic. I speak quite loud. So I was really intrigued by this question, how to attract kind of younger audiences. And I think that both Alexandra and Vladimir kind of answer to an extent that question, because I think that we have to speak kind of in a language, you know, that can be understood by the generation that is kind of shaped and conditioned completely different, you know, media, you know. So for example, this almost like a dinosaurs, you know.
Dinosaur speaking.
Like what they say for kids, like why they're not wearing, you know, watch, you know, because it's single function device, you know. Why would you have a single function device when you have a mobile phone, you know, which can combine these so many kind of functions and so on. So I think that maybe what Alexandra said, not to copy, but kind of to integrate something that could be like a fringe of any of those like official kind of a big festivals, you know, where you kind of either open mic or open flow, you know, for people that don't want to just like witness like these big names, you know, like whatever, spreading wisdom, but actually feel equally kind of meaning to feel their agency, you know, to kind of they have something to share. And I mean, I can speak from the perspective of London and one major festival like Southbank Literary Festival, which just attracts massive names, you know. And what other people who write do, you know, they form these little kind of communities, these little temporary autonomous zones, where they have their own little kind of fringe festivals, you know. So we gather in, I don't know, some again rundown places, you know, pubs, like at the moment it's Cock Tavern in Somerstown, which was like the IRA kind of headquarters in 80s, and we basically read to each other and mentor each other, and also I think with this mentoring things and young people, I think it's really strange to think that we should like teach them something. I think unless it's both ways, it's completely kind of wrong, you know, and to this kind of artificial intelligence, I just have one kind of little point to add. You know, I don't think that, you know, maybe you prose writers, you know, start from some joy, you know, but I think that poets start from crippling self-doubt, you know. I think the people who write poetry are absolutely torn, and they don't think that they're doing anything right, you know, and actually the poem itself is like this kind of evidence of like this, yeah, crippling self-doubt, and I cannot kind of emulate that. It cannot imitate that, you know, being torn into 1,000 pieces and trying to kind of make some sense of your experiences, you know. So, i.e. that don't have experiences, emotional processes, you know, which allows for this examination, you know. So I think that it will never match. It will never match this kind of nine circles of hell, you know, that we are going whenever there is a breakdown or, you know, heartbreak or kind of a loss, grief and the rest, you know. So yeah.
Thank you, Svetlana. Our time expired, so we need to eat polip also, because at 5 we have another program. We have a promotion of the book Sea of Change, so be there. Thank you, my guests, for sharing your experience and for your thoughts and ideas. Thank to the audience for being here. As a member of this dinosaur club, see you at 8. Also, I have only 2 poems to read, so I hope you will come. I expect you to come. Thank you.